Go back! I want to be Monkey!
Welcome one and all to my Pokemon Platinum Chimchar Solo Run Challenge. I hope you're all ready to witness the story of Sun Wukong through the lens of Pokemon as we seek to answer, can you beat Pokemon Platinum with only a Chimchar? Also, if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, as it helps me see that you guys like this kind of content. And feel free to let me know what you guys think of the challenge in the comments. I love seeing what you guys have to say. I'm pretty excited for this run, since this is one of the very, very few Fire-type Pokemon that Gen 4 introduced. This run also requires a bit of a new strategy that I haven't had to use in any of my prior runs, and it includes something very rare that I've been expecting for a very long time. With that out of the way, let's get into the rules. Rule number 1, no glitches, hacks, or cheats. I do, however, use speed up, otherwise these videos would take far longer to produce and I'd rather produce them quickly. Rule number 2, I can only use one Pokemon in battle. However, because I am not cheating, I do need to use HM Pokemon for travel purposes only. And lastly, rule number 3, no items in battle. This doesn't include held items, as I use Everstones during some runs, and so other held items are also allowed if necessary. With all of that out of the way, let's begin. Now, we did have to do our rival fight several times, since we had to reset for an Adamant Nature Chimchar, and surprisingly we had to be very careful during each reset. We had to lower Piplup's defenses by a lot each and every fight since it kept lowering our attack. Anyways, we didn't lose to Pablo here all too much, only when we had really bad natures. With our Adamant Nature Chimchar, we talk to Professor Rowan, get the TM for return, and then move on to Route 2. On Route 2, we're there for really only one reason, Shinx. We've got to knock out 252 of these cute little creatures, but right as we approach the end of our training, around 240 knockouts or so, it finally happens. The first shiny on the channel, and it's a Shinx! One of my favorite shiny Pokemon. She's an absolutely beautiful color, and we name her Aurum, and she is absolutely precious, and we keep her in our party for the rest of the run. With our first ever shiny on the channel safely stored away on our roster, we head over to ADHD, the character, who challenges us to another fight. He leads with Starly, who hits us in vain with a quick attack before we burn into ash with a Flame Wheel. Piplup is up next, who we also melt into a puddle with another Flame Wheel. Moving on to Rourke, I'm glad that he's the first gym leader in the challenge, as he has a pretty spooky team for us. He leads with the Geodude, who tanks one of our Flame Wheels and sets up Stealth Rocks, but we knock it out on the next turn. Rourke sends out Onix next, who, again, tanks our Flame Wheel, even though it was a crit. Onix then hits us with a Rock Throw and does a good chunk of damage. We proceed to trade Flame Wheel and Rock Throw back and forth until eventually we knock out this rock-solid snake with a crit. Cranidos is the last Pokemon we've got to take down, and thankfully we outspeed and do a significant chunk of damage to it, while it neglects to use a Rock-type move and opts for Headbutt, allowing us to take it down in the next turn and earn ourselves the Coal Badge. With Rourke rocked, we head over to the Valley Windworks to take on Mars. Mars leads with Zubat, who is absolutely destroyed by Flame Wheel. Up next is Perugly, who uses Fake Out on us and then outspeeds us and uses Feint Attack, taking us a bit low. After a few more trades, we just barely scraped by with 17 HP and kick Mars out of the Windworks. From here, we need to implement a new strategy, the Underground. We're going to need to make use of Move Tutors in this video, which is conveniently placed right next to a very bothersome gym. Anyways, we need to spend time in the Underground to farm for blue shards, which we're going to be using later. With our Minecraft cravings satisfied, we head over to Gardenia. Considering she's a Grass-type leader and we have a Fire Monkey, I'm not exactly expecting much trouble. She leads with Turtwig, who we one-shot with Flame Wheel. Next up is Cherim, who meets the same burning fate. And last up is Roserade, who despite looking fire, can't stand the heat and turns to ash, which earns us the Forest Badge. Gardenia alone wasn't enough to pacify our monkey rage, so we head over to Jupiter in hopes of finding a more challenging opponent. Jupiter leads with Zubat, who we run over with our Flame Wheel. Next up is Skuntank, who fares a bit better by tanking our Flame Wheel, but gets burned and eats its berry before using Night Slash. On the next turn, we run it over a second time for good measure, knocking it out. We go straight to Fantina after handling Jupiter, our burning desire to win still not satisfied. Fantina leads with Duskull, whom we one-shot with Flame Wheel since it looked at us weird. Miss Magius is up next, who tanks a Flame Wheel, eats a berry, and then slaps us with a Shadow Ball, lowering our special defense. No big deal since we take it out on the next turn with a second Flame Wheel. Haunter is Fantina's last Pokemon who just can't withstand the intensity of our monkey power and falls to a single Flame Wheel, earning ourselves the Relic Badge. After taking down Fantina, we decide to head down to Wayward Cave so that we could grab Double Team, which we're definitely going to need for later on in this video. Our third fight with Barry was a bit odd, but we got through it eventually. Staravia is the lead and lowers our attack immediately, so we decide that we'll need to start using Double Team so that we're untouchable. After both of us buff our evasive stats considerably, we opt to use Flamethrower since our attack has been lowered. We take out Staravia pretty easily, and Primplup is up next, who we take out in 3 Flamethrowers without it getting a single hit in. Ponyta follows Primplup, who we Flame Wheel crit to take it down with ease, and lastly is Roselia, who we flatten with another Flame Wheel. We reach Veilstone and meet with the clowns so that we can have access to Robux currency. We then purchase our Robux currency, talk to Looker to tell him that we can see his shame, and then trade in our Robux for Swords Dance, a very strong stat-boosting move that will be extremely valuable for this run. With all of our money spent and having taught Chimchar Swords Dance, we move on to fight Maylene. Maylene leads with Meditite, who we use Swords Dance on once while it tries and fails to hit us with Rock Tomb. On the next turn, we blast it with a Flame Wheel for the one-shot. Machoke is up next, but not even Machoke can stand up to our strong Fire Wheel. Lucario is last up, who also can't help but liquefy after being hit by our Flame Wheel. With Lucario taken down, we earn ourselves our third trophy, the Cobble Badge. We move on to Pastoria City to claim our next gym badge, but Barry's need for embarrassment and pain gets the best of him and he stops us right before we enter the gym. Barry leads with his Staravia, who lowers our attack on entry. We set up on Staravia using Swords Dance 3 times while it uses Double Team. Prior to the fight, we had taught Chimchar Return for a solid neutral hit, and eventually we managed to land a Return for the knockout. Primplup is up next, who also falls to a single return. Ponyta follows, who just like those before it, cannot stand to the power of friendship and faints. Roselia is last up, who we run over with what would be our last Hot Wheel of the run. We tried to take on Wake a few times, but we just couldn't get through him. We ended up using the move tutor at this time, teaching Chimchar Thunder Punch over Flame Wheel at the cost of a few shards. With Thunder Punch now in our move pool, we go back to take on Wake once more. Wake leads with Gyarados, who sadly lowers our attack, but we're still able to one-shot the giant dragonfish with Thunder Punch. Quagsire comes out next, and since we can't one-shot, we're gonna have to use Double Team. Quagsire still lands Mudshot 3 times, lowering our speed a good deal, but eventually we're fully set up with only 2 HP remaining. We then go for a return and take it down in one shot. Floatzel is last up, who misses Aqua Jet while we land our Thunder Punch, knocking out this lame living raft to claim the Fen Badge. After taking the Fen Badge, we see Barry messing around and proving himself to be the best rival, and after the bomb goes off in the Great Marsh, we do a bit of mining for more shards. Sadly, our mining was fruitless, and we defeatedly wander over to Celestic Town to battle Cyrus, who rudely interrupted our story time. Cyrus leads with Sneasel, who we one-shot with Return after 2 Sword Stands. After Sneasel is Golbat, who we Thunder Punch and knock out instantly. Last up is Murkrow, who we also Thunder Punch for the one-shot. It is at this point that I had determined that Thunder Punch would no longer be necessary in our run, but the move that I want to replace it with requires more shards. In search of more, I had gone to the Ironworks, but while there, I made a discovery. I completely forgot that you could trade star pieces for shards in this area, and had I known that, we would have spent significantly less time in the underground. Anyways, we then head back to the move tutor and replace Thunder Punch with Fire Punch. We then head over to Conalave, where Barry is waiting to try and throw us off the bridge. He leads with Staraptor, who sadly lowers our attack, but a few turns later and a few Swords Dance fixes us right up. After a tanked takedown, we one-shot Staraptor with a return. Empoleon follows Staraptor, but despite being so imposing, Empoleon can't stand to our friendship either and faints immediately. Rapidash is after Empoleon, but again, Chimchar is just too powerful, having replaced its Monkey Rage with Monkey Friendship. Heracross follows Rapidash, but we burn it to a husk with a Fire Punch. And Roserade is last up, who like Heracross, just cannot handle the heat. We blitz through Iron Island, not bothering to train for this upcoming fight. Byron leads with Magneton, who does its best to be a nuisance, but just can't amount to anything. It hits us with Metal Sound after a Swords Dance, but on the next turn we melt it with a Fire Punch. Steelix is up next, who also liquefies after we Fire Punch, and last up is Bastiodon, who we punch in its ridiculously sized forehead for almost its entire health bar. And then on the next turn, one more Fire Punch takes it down, earning ourselves the Mind Badge. After dealing with Byron, we have a quick meeting with Professor Rowan, and then Team Galactic blows up a lake, so we're off to deal with that. We meet Saturn inside the cave within the lake, and Saturn thinks a mere Golbat can stand up to us, so he leads with that. Newsflash, Golbat sucks, so we one-shot it without buffs. Toxicroak is up next, so this time we use Swords Dance and tank a Poison Jab, getting poisoned in the process. On the next turn, though, we hit Toxicroak with Concentrated Friendship, knocking it out. Bronzor is last up, whom we melt down with a single Fire Punch. Saturn sulks off, and then we head over to Mars, eager to take on another lame admin. She leads with Golbat, who we Swords Dance on before taking it out with a Fire Punch. Bronzor is up next, who we again Fire Punch for the one-shot. And last up is Perugly, who fakes us out to stall for time, but we hit it with our friendship on the next turn and take it out. We then take a hike up to Snow Point so that we can take on Candace. Candace leads with Sneasel, who we one-shot with Fire Punch to get revenge for Turtwig in the last Platinum video. Pillow Swine is up next, and despite it being so cute, we one-shot the poor pig and turn it into bacon. Abomasnow is up next, who also falls to a single Fire Punch, and last up is Frostless, who outspeeds us and uses Double Team, which causes us to miss. On the next turn, it uses Double Team again, and we again miss. On the turn after that, it again uses Double Team, but this time we break through and one-shot it with Fire Punch, earning ourselves the Icicle Badge. We then head back to Veilstone and listen to Cyrus give an amazing speech.
I come to make an announcement. Shadow the Hedgehog's a motherfucker on my wife. That's right. He took his...
Yeah. Okay, Cyrus. Whatever you say. With Cyrus's speech still echoing in our mind, we move forward to face Cyrus once more. Cyrus leads with Sneasel, who screeches at us and misses, so we Fire Punch it in the face to shut it up. Crobat is up next, who we crit return for the easy knockout. And last up is Honchkrow, who we return for about half after it eats its berry. It hits us for half with Drill Peck, but on the next turn, we crit Fire Punch and take it out. Cyrus pieces out, not caring if we release the Lake Trio, but Saturn has determined that to be a bad idea and tries to keep us from releasing them. Saturn leads with Golbat, whom we Swords Dance on before knocking it out with Return. Next up is Bronzor, who we mistakenly return and fail to one-shot, but on the next turn we correct that error. And last up is Toxicroak, who we Fire Punch for the one-shot, shoving this nerd out of our way. We then hike up to the summit of Mount Coronet, and just before we're double-teamed by Jupiter and Mars, Barry decides he wants in on the action and comes to assist. Jupiter and Mars both lead with Bronzor, setting up Light Screen and Reflect, but it doesn't matter since we set up a Swords Dance and then one-shot Jupiter's Bronzor with Fire Punch. Jupiter then sends out Golbat, who we one-shot with another Fire Punch. Jupiter then sends out her last Pokemon, that being Skuntank, who doesn't last much longer than Golbat since we beat it into the ground with another Fire Punch. From this point forward, we really turn up the heat, one-shotting Mars's Bronzor with Fire Punch, Mars's Perugly with another Fire Punch, and then lastly, Mars's Golbat is yet another victim to our Burning Fist. After that double battle, and a bit of definitely not getting completely lost in the distortion world, Cyrus challenges us to another battle. Cyrus leads with Houndoom, who we choose to set up on with a few double teams and Swords Dance. We then one-shot it with Return, which leads to Gyarados being sent out and lowering our attack. Fortunately, we're still very, very strong and one-shot the Gyarados with another Return. Honchkrow comes out next, who also falls to another Return. Next up is Weavile, who tries to fake us out but misses while we hit with Fire Punch for the one-shot. And last up is Crobat, who we take out with the power of Friendship, rubbing a bit of salt into Cyrus's ego. We quickly catch Giratina with the Master Ball and then head over to Sunnyshore to grab our final gym badge. Volkner leads with Jolteon, who actually slapped us during our first fight since it got triple charge beam buffs. Oof. Anyways, in this particular fight it doesn't get any, and we set up a single Swords Dance before using Return to one-shot Jolteon. Raichu is sent out next, who we also one-shot with Return. Volkner then sends out Electivire, who we also one-shot with Friendship, and last up is Luxray, who cannot stand to the overwhelming power of the bond Chimchar and I share. Luxray falls, and we earn ourselves the Beacon Badge. After getting slapped by several trainers in Victory Road due to rushing, we finally arrive at the Pokemon League. However, just before we enter to challenge the Elite Four, Barry shows up and challenges us to another fight. Barry still leads with Staraptor, who lowers our attack and forces us to rebuff with Swords Dance while it hits us with Close Combat. We use another Swords Dance and tank another close combat, which takes us down to 71 HP. We decide to risk one more turn and Swords Dance again, tanking another close combat and dropping our HP down to 5. We then use Return and knock out Staraptor. Empoleon is up next, but we show it who the real threat is and take it out in one return. Snorlax is up next, who we just barely managed to take out with Return. Heracross follows Snorlax, but we take it out with a Fire Punch very easily. Rapidash follows Heracross, who we send to the Glue Factory after taking it out with Return, and last up is poor Roserade, who we turn to dust with a Fire Punch. F's in the comments for Barry. Aaron is the first of the Elite Four that we've got to take on, and fortunately he's pretty easy. He leads with Yanmega, who isn't a threat, so we Swords Dance one time before using Fire Punch to take it down. Next up is Vespiquen, who despite being a queen, can't deal with the majesty of Fire Punch. Heracross is up next, who is yet another victim of our Fire Punch spam. Scizor follows Heracross, but unfortunately all of that steel covering its body is more of a hazard in this case. And last up is Drapion, who also falls to a single Fire Punch. GG easy, Aaron.
Bertha!
I have been dreading this fight ever since the start of the game, but even with that, I had underestimated how awful this fight truly would be. To make a long story short, Whiscash has accuracy hacks somehow. I've got no idea what was going on, but it was basically incapable of missing. The solution that I came up with was to quickly deal with Whiscash by using Return 3 times to take it down. Hippowdon was also very hard to deal with, but at least it was capable of missing. The long and short is that if we're ever hit with an Earthquake or Earth Power, we faint immediately, or we faint to the Sandstorm. Fortunately, we get past both Whiscash and Hippowdon without taking too much damage, and we're fully stacked. Golem is sent out next, who we return for the one-shot. Rhyperior is another problem though, because even with being fully stacked, we cannot one-shot it with Return, and we must dodge the Earthquake. Fortunately, we do, and we take it out on the next turn with another Return. And last up is Gliscor, who was super easy to take down with a single Return. What an annoying fight. Sadly, it isn't the last annoying fight of the run. Flint is our next opponent, and he leads with Houndoom, who we Swords Dance once on and knock out with Return. Next up is Infernape, who we return for the one-shot, proving that we're the superior monkey. After Infernape is Flareon, who we return for another one-shot. Magmortar is sent out next, who surprisingly falls to a single Return, even though we're not super stacked. And last up is Rapidash, who we take out with another Return, taking out Flint with ease. Lucian is the last of the Elite Four, so I'm expecting a bit of a challenge, but surprisingly there isn't much resistance. We set up Swords Dance while Mr. Mime uses Reflect, and we use another Swords Dance while Mr. Mime uses Light Screen. Then we hit it with a Fire Punch for the one-shot. Gallade is sent out next, who I was worried might outspeed us, but we're actually faster, and we take it down with a Return. Bronzong is sent out next, who we're able to melt easily with a single Fire Punch. Espeon comes out next, but a single Fire Punch takes care of it as well. And last up is Alakazam, who surprisingly outspeeds us and hits us with Psychic for about half. We're able to take it out with a single Return, but I keep forgetting how fast Alakazam really is.
Cynthia!
Cynthia is the last fight of the run, and she's just about as annoying as Bertha was, and for the same reason. Cynthia's Spirit Tomb would just not miss. At all. I spent a solid hour with Cynthia trying to set up on the Spirit Tomb, and we could just not get a good run until this fight here. Our solution was to double team 4 times, just hoping that it would miss, and then switch over to 3 Swords Dance. We then take it out with a single Fire Punch. Milotic is up next, and since we can't set up on that, that's why we didn't use the strat that we used against Bertha. Anyways, we take it down with a single Return. But after Milotic is Garchomp, who poses another threat. See, Garchomp also has really good accuracy. Even with +6 evasive, Garchomp ended several attempts with Dragon Rush or Earthquake, seeing as it is faster than Chimchar. Anyways, on this attempt, it finally misses Earthquake, and we one-shot it with Return. After Garchomp is Togekiss, who is easily dealt with by using Return. However, Lucario is after Togekiss, who we also lost a few attempts to, seeing as it has Extreme Speed. However, this time it doesn't even try to use Extreme Speed, so we take it out. And last up is Roserade, who we hit with Fire Punch to turn one last Pokemon into Ash as we claim the title of Champion. So, this run was pretty fun, all in all. With Aurum, our first shiny Pokemon on the channel, showing up at the start, I had a pretty good feeling about the run. We learned a bit with the star piece trading at the ironworks, so we don't need to spend as much time in the underground in later platinum challenges, which will be a huge time saver. Speaking of time, the final time for this run was actually 24 hours and 53 minutes, which is roughly 3 hours longer than Turtwig. I'm very surprised by this, and I think most, if not all, of the added time came from the EV training at the start and the underground mining. Anyways, I stream this run over on Twitch, which I plan on doing weekly. Also, if you liked this video, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe, as it would help me out a lot. If you'd like, feel free to leave a comment to let me know how you felt about the video, since I love seeing what you guys think about my content. If you are interested in coming and hanging out, feel free to follow the link below to either my Twitch, my Twitter, or my Discord. This has been Shro, and thank you for watching.